In the first month, I made $35,000. And then you pushed me to make $50,000, I think in the second month we worked together. And then within 6 months, I made $100,000 that month as a breathwork coach, thanks to you.
It was more like pointing the loaded gun in the right direction.
Welcome to the Mastry Experience. I'm your host, Francesca Sipma, and we are diving deep into mental mastery. This is where self-awareness meets peak performance. You're going to witness the truth behind personal development, emotional breakthroughs, dissolving triggers, getting into flow state, discovering purpose, and most importantly, mastering intuitive action. And we do this through a process called HypnoBreathwork. This is your community committed to breaking behavior patterns, getting into alignment, pursuing excellence, and self-mastery. Let's do the work. This is the Mastry Experience. Before we dive into today's episode, it would mean so much to us if you could hit subscribe right below. Your support helps us secure inspiring guests and deliver high quality content. We appreciate it so much. Thank you. This episode is brought to you by Mastry app. Download Mastry for your 7-day free trial today. Shout out to Huel for sponsoring and partnering with the Mastry Experience. Business coach extraordinaire, Jason Lew, welcome to the Mastry Experience.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited that you're here. We start every single show off with a question from our Mastery card deck, and your question today is, when did you last sabotage something good and why?
I can't remember the last time I sabotaged something intentionally.
So that means you're in alignment, you're aware of your actions and your intentions, and we're living good.
I think it's the idea that the more that I've been in the work, the more awareness I have of when am I creating stories about something. And I think there's always this interesting concept of everything is neutral. Like everything we do, the good rain, sunshine, whatever it might be, but everything is neutral and it's the story that we attach to it. So I think as I've spent more time in the space, the awareness is around when am I attaching stories, and it's okay as long as they're serving what I'm doing. But I've also been aware of all the times where the story needs to be rewritten in order to do something that is hard, do something that is difficult, do something that has maybe puts me in a place where I'm less comfortable or more seen or whatever it might be. So yeah.
So you mean it more like not defining it as sabotage, seeing it as it was meant to be that way, or it was a learning moment, or it was a growth opportunity for you. Is that what you mean? Reframing it?
I think the question is, if we believe that we are always divinely held, then often we are being given the curriculum at any given time, but often we don't like the way in which it's showing up. So most of our resistance in life is, well, I don't like the fact that it showed up as money lost, business lost, clients lost. But I have a quote sitting on my table that says, our only problem is our resistance to what is, and the only answer is our acceptance to what is.
I'm giggling inside right now because I'm thinking about how we met and when we first met and how far of a departure it was from where you are now with the logic, the linear thinking, the rationality, and then the intuition and the spirituality. So let's start back at the beginning. We were both, this is pre-COVID or during COVID? I think it was during COVID.
It was like 2020-ish.
Yeah, so it was during COVID because we were all at home, and this is when people were super into personal development and finding workshops online and joining Zooms to be in community. And it was Saturday morning, and there was a money mindset workshop that we both happened to be in. And I just remember you were asking questions that I found really intelligent, and the way that you communicated I found so articulate. And I sought you out on Instagram. I slid into your DMs and I said, I think we're going to be best friends. Come to my breathwork class. I manifested you. We got on a call, and I was really early on in my breathwork journey. I'd say I was coaching for 6 months or so. And I said, I feel like we should connect. It feels intuitive. And immediately on that first call, you said to me, I think that you should consider doing a group program, a group course. And I said, that makes no sense. I'm a breathwork coach. And then the next morning, an entire curriculum came through in my breathwork. And we started working together. And in the first month, I made $35,000. And then you pushed me to make $50,000, I think in the second month we worked together. And then within 6 months, I made $100,000 that month as a breathwork coach, thanks to you.
I don't know that I had anything to do with it. It was more like pointing the loaded gun in the right direction. I think what's interesting is the more entrepreneurs I coach with, it's interesting, but I don't want to say that you have an amazing ability to work hard, make decisions, and move under high stress. But I think what's also interesting is that your presets for entrepreneurship are really good. Like your instinct for entrepreneurship is really good. And I think often the way that we are taught, the way that we are raised, the schooling system, all of it is not necessarily built for entrepreneurship. And so while the principles can be the same, and while I'm grateful for the compliment, at the same time, like I felt like there was a lot that was already built into who you were and how you showed up.
Okay, feel free to push back on me with this.
Sure.
Because I believe, and we've run masterminds together now, right? So we've kind of collabed our different...
We made a ton of cash before we ever met.
That's so true, before we ever met in person. That's so crazy. So I have a belief that everyone is capable of living the life of their dreams. That is my true belief. I do think it takes work ethic, and I think that it takes psychological work of really becoming the version of yourself. And I think that it does require a lot of hard work. Now, with that being said, I feel like I've developed this system to help people get there in a way that is accelerated, which is using the breath work to clear subconscious blocks. Our last cue is always, what is your next intuitive action step? If people would just breathe every morning, get clarity on the one action, do it immediately, I think that they could have the same success. I really think that.
I believe you believe that.
Such a kind way of saying that's not possible. Okay, I'm really open to your interpretation because I know now that maybe that's not true because I have 150 HypnoBreathwork coaches in the world, but I don't think that they're doing that process. I believe if they were doing the process, they'd be getting different results, but people tap out way too soon. They quit way too soon. They get a silent launch and then they're out. But if you took action the next day and you got more creative on your outreach, you got more vulnerable in your marketing, you started sending voice notes, you started creating an email list, you started showing up on video. If you stayed consistent in removing the block and taking the action, I think that you could achieve the things that you want.
So I 100% agree with you. And I will say that the difficulty is, I think everyone has pre-assigned defaults. And the difficulty for most people is finding the frequency. So when we talk about goals often in business, yes, there's a lot of strategy. Yes, there's a lot of principles. But one of the areas that we teach on a lot is this concept that every goal has a frequency. So it's this idea that most of us come into the world with a certain preset and a certain frequency. If we can imagine, the frequency is whatever it might be, 100 hertz, and your goal is at 1,000 hertz. Most of us are expecting to get the plan, the results, the strategy to go from 100 hertz to 1,000 hertz. We want this step-by-step, paint by numbers. How do we get there? And that almost never works. What I find is that when more people build brands around themselves, around their unique gifts, talents, and abilities, the less there's a roadmap to it. And so everyone's searching for like, well, what's the next step? And what exactly am I supposed to do so that I don't fail? What I find is that there are always principles, but every person's business looks absolutely different.
Yeah.
But to get back to your point here, most people learn business from the concept of, once I have the rules, then I'm going to do the rules, then I'm going to be successful here. So it's this concept of have, then do, then be, which a lot of people talk about today. But what people get wrong what they get wrong about building a business is they miss the concept of, if there is a version of me that's completed the business, meaning whatever money goal it is, whatever millions of dollars that I'm making every year, whatever stages you're speaking on, whatever books you've written, it's the imagination of there's a version of me that's done all that. And the question I like to ask is, what is the difference between that version that's completed and the version that you are today? Most people lack courage or certainty or confidence or worth or ability to lean into risk, whatever the words might be. The question then is, if you can embody courage, like fully embody, and this is where breathwork I think is so powerful, is when they access breathwork, they're able to access for that moment what complete courage feels like and then act from it, which is the idea of, if everyone woke up every morning and breathed on it, that they could take this action and be successful. The problem is there's 40 plus years, 30 plus years, however old someone is, of programming that puts someone back in the default state. And so what I love about breathwork and what I also love about being able to coach people is, how do we get someone to first embody that version of themselves first so that they can then take the action often enough that inevitably gets them the results of being successful.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, I think even now in my business, when I'm sending a proposal, and even for me still, like the pricing is always feels kind of uncomfortable to state your rate or to send out the pitch deck. And I will close my eyes. I will take a couple deep breaths and I will say, how would my higher self handle this?
Yes.
And then just boom, the courage hits me like a wave and it's like send with confidence. And even if the words are the same, the subject line is the same, the attachment is the same, my energy is different when I tune into that state.
It's 100% because it's not about the action. The action is secondary. It's what's the embodiment of the person. So you can, anyone can, let's say two people walk into the room, one person can love it, one person can hate it. The point I'm getting to right now is this idea of, if I'm scared, maybe the answer to asking someone for a sale is I avoid it. I don't speak up for myself.
Right.
But I could also be in full courage and it can look like saying the difficult thing, or maybe the most courageous thing is not to say anything at all, but it's less about the action. It's the come from. It's the intent of where it's coming from.
Well, I think also when you're in breath, it just shifts you into a place where it's less about you and your ego, and you turn it almost outwards to be more compassionate and to be of service.
Yeah.
And so when people are particularly uncomfortable with the sales process and they're thinking about me, how does this make me look? Is it spiritual to charge this? And then you go into breath and you're like, I'm about to change this person's life. I'm about to hold space for them to completely, shift into the confidence that they've been desiring. And then you get so excited about that transformation. Then when you state your number or you send the email, it hits them differently. They can feel that you're not in scarcity too.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your first experiences with breathwork.
Sure.
I was like, you need to come to my virtual class immediately.
Yeah.
How was your first session? Do you remember it?
So I think what was powerful about it was, yes, the physical, I think what's interesting about breath work is that as opposed to meditation, there's an active participation in it. Mm-hmm. And that was always really intriguing. Yes, over-oxygenating the brain, the nervous system, being able to access visions and thoughts, but then also the recognition that there's physical, actual feelings, like hand clamping. For me, it was feelings on my left-hand side. And at that time, I don't think I had a bone in my body that was intuitive, let alone knowing the difference between what could be intuitive, what a higher self was. Everything was linear and logical. Yeah. And so it was an eye-opening experience of learning to trust myself a bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I'm having all these little mini visions of my apartment in Santa Monica and us being on Zooms together. We added so much value. We really did become besties.
Yeah.
And then I remember my best friend, Emil, was over and she just heard us talking. She was like, it sounds like you guys have known each other for years.
Yeah.
And we created these masterminds. And I thought the really cool thing and the synergy between us is we're the complete opposite.
Totally.
People. Even today, you just got done teaching at my HypnoBreathwork certification, and it was like whiplash for those guys. They were like, that was a completely different energy. He's so calm. He's so kind. He's so passionate. He's so compassionate. He's just so, level. And then you were bringing in tactics, strategy, marketing, principles. And then I was bringing in this the intuition, the action, using the breath work. And when we brought it together, it really was a really special combination.
I think it's a really kind of important balance that most people don't get, at least when people just work with me. I think what you bring is there's a level of premium, there's a level of luxe, but there's also a level of action taking that I think is it's just who you are. It's what you stand for. And I think people get great results from having both perspectives.
Yeah. Can we talk about presets though? Because I've always been curious when you say that. And I've clocked it more recently that I realize that I am a very action-oriented person, right? Obviously, that's probably the easiest state for me. It's extremely more difficult for me to not take action.
Correct.
To slow down, to pull back, to not be impulsive. And I'm just thinking about some of the qualities of entrepreneurship and how people can develop the muscles that will really get them results and will really give them success. What are the presets that you've seen help people be most successful in entrepreneurship?
It's funny, we were talking about this in the certification today, and I said, I think one of the biggest issues for young entrepreneurs is the idea of being able to fail publicly.
Oh.
And so it's our relationship to being seen failing. We love being seen in the chair with the lighting and, being successful. But I think that entrepreneurship most often than not, is educated guesses in the right direction. And there's no such thing as getting it perfect the first time out. Like everyone wants to write an ad and the first ad you write is done. The first piece of marketing or messaging is done. And it's not the case. It's small tweaks until you can dial it in. And I think what keeps people out of entrepreneurship, or at least continuing, is this idea that there's a right path. And really it's about, can you be okay with uncertainty? Can you be okay with being seen publicly failing? Can you be seen like not at your best, and can you still move and change and adjust? And that I think is a very hard skill for people, especially when social media is the highlight reel of everyone's lives, and you're bombarded with all these people succeeding, when I think before social, you were almost self-contained and no one saw you fail so often.
Okay, I have a question about this then, because as you're saying that, I'm realizing that my relationship to failure is almost how you described self-sabotage. I don't have that framework of it being failure.
Do tell.
Because if I defined my actions as failure, I've almost only failed at this, because when my numbers haven't grown, when the revenue isn't being generated, when the growth isn't being had, when my book didn't sell like I wanted it to, when the app's not getting the downloads that I wanted, when my corporate packages didn't sell. I mean, I could consider myself a complete failure if I measured it by those things.
Correct.
But I don't clock it that way.
How do you clock it then?
Who I'm becoming. And more importantly, my integrity with my own action. So if I have the intuition to put that out in the world, and it's about me developing my vulnerability muscle, or it's about the 3 people who are supposed to see it, and I followed through on that, that gives me confidence. And when I continue just building the confidence, and I enjoy the creative process, and I enjoy serving the people that are in front of me, even though, I have audacious, big goals, and I am nowhere close to them. And I've had them for 7 years or 6 years since we've met, and I have not achieved them.
Sure.
But I don't consider it to be a failure. I just consider it to be the process. I start every morning with breath work and meditation. I'm immediately in a creative flow state, and I get on my computer and I start banging out work. The next thing I know, it's already lunch and I haven't even eaten breakfast. Shout out to Huel for making sure that I'm still hitting my protein goals, because they have these delicious ready-to-drink meals packed with 35 grams of protein, 7 grams of fiber. We have 27 different vitamins and minerals. My favorite part, you guys, no artificial sweeteners, and it comes in so many delicious flavors, including this chocolate, peanut butter, and my personal favorite, the iced coffee. And if you're looking for something where you can add your own fruits and veggies to it, then check out the Huel protein. All the same nutrients, but you can make it a little bit creamier, a little bit thicker. Shout out to Huel for sponsoring the Mastry Experience, and you can use our exclusive 15% off code. That's Huel.com/mastery. And Huel is actually now in Targets near you. So check them out. Shout out to Huel for supporting the Mastry Experience.
This episode is brought to you by Mastry, built for high performers pursuing greatness. In just 20 minutes each morning, reprogram your subconscious mind for self-awareness and peak performance. We use HypnoBreathwork, breathwork, hypnosis, and visioning for extreme mental clarity and manifestation of your dreams. Download Mastry app and start your 7-day free trial today.
So it's a beautiful example of I think, 2 things. One, your frame. So if we look at a result, most people frame it as the negative. I didn't get my book sold the way I wanted to. The app didn't get downloaded the certain way it is. But what I hear you say is, I took the action, I put the product out into the world, and then your metric of success is, did I follow through intuitively? Mm-hmm. And so what's really beautiful there, and I think what's really powerful and it's worth acknowledging here, is that in that space, there's a self-acknowledgement that is happening. Most people are dependent on what the bank account says, the number of likes that say, it's all we call them vanity metrics, but we determine whether our life is going in the right way or wrong way based on what our bank account says, who likes us, who's, whatever it might be. And I think that what we are seeking outside, the recognition is that we need to be able to give to ourselves. And so that is a really beautiful example of self-acknowledgement, self-celebration. And I think most people miss that. And entrepreneurship is a lot of valley and a very little peaks.
Yeah.
And so if you're waiting for the peaks of like, oh, when they like it or when 100 people buy my product, then I'm successful, that's what knocks people out of the game.
Okay, so I think what would be really helpful for people, and I want to know how you sort of reframe it.
Sure.
Because I think what would be helpful is changing your measures of success. And it's something that we talked about over lunch today. Like, we're both not where we want to be, the highest vision that we've had for ourselves. But you were talking about creating this, oh, it gives me full body chills, creating this like generational like lifestyle home with your family. And I was like, Jason, that's rich. Like, that is so rich to be able to see your parents and to be able to have your daughter grow up with them. I'm like, damn, that's a lifestyle that, I mean, if I said, you know, like, you can have these 6 options, what would you pick? Like, I would go for that. You know what I mean? And for me too, I think the number one thing for me is time freedom. And if I had all the financial freedom in the world right now, but I was stuck on somebody else's schedule and I had to go into an office every day, that would not be happiness for me. Agreed. I would not be satisfied. I would not be content. The money, what is the money getting you? What is the lifestyle? What is the day-to-day? Like, we need to tap into that energy first and then realize and be grateful for where we have things that we would take for granted.
Yeah.
And then we keep going, because if we already had everything now, what would we do every day? We just wake up and, you know, what are we going to do?
There's no movie.
There's no movie.
It's a boring story.
There's no movie. Well, one really interesting pivot in your movie that I want to talk about is the departure from social.
Sure.
And I think it's a really fascinating one, because a lot of coaches have resistance to showing up on social media. And sometimes that's their growth edge, and they need to be more comfortable with the visibility and they need to move beyond it so clients can find them. But then sometimes it's really in alignment and it's going to burn them out and it's going to drain them, and it won't allow them to focus on offers or how they can transform. So how did you get there, and how do people grow their business without social media?
I think it's worth understanding what social was and why it worked, and then also why it's more difficult today.
Tell us.
And I do feel like pre-2020, social media was kind of like a 2-in-1 shampoo, from the standpoint of it nurtured your current audience, but it also allowed you to get new reach, meaning new people had new eyeballs on your business. Post-2020, I think social media had a problem, and their problem obviously was too much content and people leaving platforms because the content either wasn't good enough, wasn't catchy enough, and so they started to narrow down the amount of content that got viral. And so you get a very small skim at the top of the best out there right now that goes viral. And so most people's content, not only does it not get out to their even current audience, it barely gets any reach. And so what once was a 2-in-1, meaning you could grow an audience and nurture at the same time, I find now are 2 separate systems. And so when we're looking at coaching businesses, what I really believe is that we get to really focus in on what is the way in which we are capturing new leads and replenishing audience, which I think most people are like, well, if I have an audience, I just pitch them and launch them, I should be making more and more money every time I launch. What people don't think about is this idea of, if you have an audience of 5,000 people and it gave you X amount of dollars, in order to make the next, I don't know, 100,000, 200,000, whatever the number is going to be, you need a new 5,000 people. And people don't think that way. And so in order to build without social, it's the idea of who exactly is my clientele that I want to focus in on? And then more importantly, how do I nurture those individuals? I spent time really early on in my career with a woman who was she was the top real estate agent in all the United States, and she was speaking at a Tony Robbins event. And I was learning sales, and I asked this naive question. I was like, how many sales are you going to close today? And she said, Jason, do you want to know why I'm so successful at what I do? I said, of course. She said, when I walk on the stage, there's about 200 people in this room. Only about 1% to 3% of this audience has any desire or need for what I have right now. They're going to buy a home, they're going to sell a home, they want to buy commercial real estate, whatever it might be. And most of my peers make their money and living based off of this kind of like skimming off the top 1% to 3% that are always ready to buy. She said the second part I'll tell you, which may give you comfort, is that 60% of this room, no matter what I do, how good, how competent, how smart I am, will never buy from me no matter what. But she said where the money is made is in the 37% in the middle. Because over the next 6 to 12 to 18 months, they will become people that either inherit a house, go through refinancing, go through bankruptcy, change jobs, move, whatever it might be. So she said, my money is made understanding that today is the beginning of the relationship. And so over the next 6, 12 months, I'm going to build a relationship with these people so that when life gets hard enough, they buy. And so the idea here behind how do you remove social from the equation, social's not bad, by the way. If you love social, be on social. But what I'm trying to give people all the time are options. If you understand that all you need are people that understand the problem that you solve, and you need a list of people that you can keep replenishing to be that ideal client. And over time, as long as you nurture them, sales inevitably come in. Then the idea is, where do these people congregate if it's not on social? So this is the conversation of kind of like, you know how, this is going to date me, but Barnes & Noble's used to hang out to, Noah's Bagels used to sit next to Starbucks, which used to sit next to Jamba Juice, because they understood that if a family showed up, it didn't cannibalize everyone else's spend. Kids would go here, parents would go there, and then everyone would buy books at Barnes & Noble's. The same is true today. Your dream clients are sitting on someone else's list. They're congregating somewhere else non-competitive. And the idea is, how do you then own that list? And I think today, especially with social media, the idea is, I'm encouraging more and more entrepreneurs. You have to own the list, own the media. So
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like social has changed so much since we first met in 2020. I remember I used to be able to post a video online and make $20,000 from one reel. And now it's like, it's a completely different game. And even the email marketing, the email newsletters have converted significantly better than Instagram. You mentioned knowing who you're speaking to.
Sure.
Knowing who your target audience is. And what I hear from coaches, especially in the breathwork space, is I want to help everybody.
Yeah.
It can help everyone. It can be for everybody. Why is that not the right strategy?
There's a story from Henry Ford back in 1919, and it's about an engineer. And at that time, the plant had completely shut down. They couldn't figure out why. And they had an engineer by the name of Steinmetz come in and walk the floor for 2 days straight. He ended up taking a chalk, denoting a line, and the story goes something like 17 meters of wire were removed and the factory came back to life. He writes Henry Ford an invoice, $1 for the chalk mark, $9,999 for knowing where to put the chalk mark. And I love the story for 2 reasons. I love it because we are not paid for what we do. We are paid for the problem we solve. And when we solve a problem like we bring factories back to life that are not running anymore, then Henry Ford at the time, who's going to pay $10,000, which in today's economy is about $190,000, when people are getting paid $5 a day, is because he solves a problem. Now, if he had positioned himself as, I put line on the ground, then he's paid, this is not at school teachers, a school teacher or someone that wields a hammer is a handy person. Those people get paid a certain amount of money. That's what they do, not the problem they solve. And so I find that in order to raise your prices, but to also get paid well and attract the clients you want, it's about understanding the problem that you solve. And most people have the problem that they think their messaging is about them, and their messaging is actually about the person they serve.
We have such a good story around this, and we tell it in every certification, but I feel called to share it now because, again, in that first year of becoming a breathwork coach, I went from 6 months at 10K to 4 months at 15K. And the first client that I sold it to, it was like an affluent golfer, businessman who had exited his company. I felt really good about it. We did an intro session, and then I sold him into the package. I called you, and I was all stoked, and I just went shopping prematurely. And then the next day he sends me an email and he goes, I just spoke to my wife. This is ridiculous. This is more than therapy costs. Like, how dare you? And I was so mortified, and it triggered my wounds so quickly, and it made me shrink and get small. And I wanted to apologize and offer a discount and over-explain. And I reached out to you, obviously, my coach. And I was like, what do I do? And you were so calm. You were so grounded. And that's when you said to me, how much would he pay for you to solve the problem? It's not about your hourly rate. It's about your expertise, all of the experience, the skill, the knowledge, the wisdom, the intuition that you have to get him where he needs to go. How much would he pay to no longer have that anxiety, to repair his relationships with his family? And it gave me so much confidence. It got me way back in my worth. I was so solid. I got on a call with him, head to head, toe to toe, alpha male. And I just stayed true to what I knew, which was HypnoBreathwork is life-changing. I know how to move you. You already got the proof from our first session together. And by the end of the call, not only did he sign the contract, but he booked the package for his wife and his daughter as well.
I remember.
It was so cool.
It was amazing.
It was amazing. But it didn't come from my ego, you know? Like that's why I just have so much reverence for you as a coach, because you just have this way of guiding us back so much more gently than how I do it, you know? But it really works for me because you call out the blind spots, you call people up, but you do it in a way that is just, it's just such a warm energy and it's so compassionate. And I just love that story.
I think great coaching often is walking with someone and almost being the bumper guards on the lane here. I think often there's a level of people have to learn to make their own mistakes and grow from them. There's not hey, every decision that we make, coaching or in your business, you're going to make properly. But what I love about that story so much is that there was what does the courageous version of you do in that moment? And you own that. Yeah. And obviously reward it well for it. But at the same time, even if you hadn't been, I think that's such a powerful moment of standing in your worth of no, I know what my work is worth. And if you don't believe in it first, then nobody does.
Well, I remember too, when I had the first intuition, it was like a year later. I mean, I moved pretty rapidly as we know with the group courses, and I did like a week retreat intensive online, and then I launched the cert. And then what felt really intuitive for me is like I had really honed my craft. I knew how to really move people, and I wasn't going to do a lot of one-on-ones. If I was, it was really going to be priced at a premium. And the price came through in my breath work that it was going to be 6 months, $50K.
Yep.
And my logical mind, was negating it. That's spiritual. It's not spiritual to charge that much, like I should be more accessible. But I wanted to really honor my intuition. And then I had this opportunity with this guy who I think he was like 6'6", super intimidating guy, did the intro session. Then he asked me, like, how do we work together? And I had mentally rehearsed in my breathwork, saying it and stating it from a place of confidence, of clarity. And I said it, and he looked at me and he goes, okay, let me think about it. And I was like, okay. He ended up not doing it. And I think it was more because he wanted in person and I was only available for virtual because I was going to be traveling. But I was more proud of myself for following through on my intuition and stating that bold number more than if I would have closed it. You know what I mean? Like that integrity with myself, that confidence that it built within me was more important than the results or than the outcome.
I remember something else about that story, and correct me if I'm wrong, but he didn't balk at the money. Yeah. It was the time.
Yeah.
So you said 6 months, and he was like, can you do it in 3?
Oh, yeah, he did. But he wanted it in person. Like
that's fair too.
Yeah.
But I remember that story from the standpoint of, or what I love about that story is that often when you raise prices, people think, oh, I have to double what I offer. So if I have 100 videos, I have to do 200 videos or whatever it might be. But if my wife cooks for a living, but when you elevate food often, it's not about adding more stuff to it.
Yeah.
It's actually about stripping it away.
Yeah.
It's the elegance of how you get to a solution.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that where a lot of entrepreneurs get tripped up, which I think your story is a great example of, is charging more is not about adding more. It's actually about getting there more elegantly in a more simple way. And also, like, price has nothing to do with the amount of time it takes to solve the problem. You touched on something really important, which is the cost of what you're charging is what it is worth for them for the lifetime of what they solve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other sort of area in marketing that I think is getting increasingly important, especially with AI and how saturated the coaching space is messaging and positioning. Can you share with us a little bit of why that's important?
I think you brought up the story earlier that everyone's like, I can help everyone and I can solve everyone's problem. And it is true. Like, a lot of people, based on their modalities and their knowledge, can solve a lot. But what I find is that there's what I call marketing friction. And the more that your ideal client or the person that you want to step into your storefront has to use their brain power, the more difficult it is for them to slip into your funnel system, whatever it is that you're selling. And so we want to take the guesswork out. And I think often everyone's like, but I don't want to exclude people. I don't want people to feel like I'm pushing them away. Trust me, when you dial in on who exactly you want, I think the idea of 1,000 true friends and Kevin Kelly's concept of serving 1,000 people deeply, you can build an amazing coaching business on a very small list. But at the same time, this is getting more and more important because I think the 1,000 true fans are having a hard time filtering through the noise, what is for them and what is not for them. And the more that you understand where someone has what I would call an emotional cracking in their life, what makes them buy is not because they're happy and life is going great. Life is not going the way they want it to, and they're looking for a solution.
What would you say to people who are starting off their coaching journey now and they're probably feeling pretty frustrated because they're on Instagram, they're putting content out there, it's getting very low engagement, it's not getting good reach, they're feeling defeated. What are the best tips for them to get coaching going in 2026?
I would say, I think there are a lot of people that are curious. Okay, so I have a philosophy that there are always three components to every business, which is the consumer, the business, and the operator. I think most people build the business from the idea of consumer first, business second, operator third. That's how they put the order of emphasis. I find that when I work with entrepreneurs, the focus always has to be owner, operator, entrepreneur first, business second, consumer third. And what I mean by that is if the person is not in alignment or they don't enjoy what they're doing, meaning the day-to-day operations of being in the foxhole, being in the difficult work, if they don't enjoy it, then they're never going to be able to sustain it because that is the livelihood of the business. And so where I'm going with this is the idea that if you are questioning whether you want to be in entrepreneurship or not, you have to have a love for some piece of it. If you're in love with the lifestyle, the money, or what you see on Instagram, it's going to be a really difficult road. But if there's something about it you love, like if you're in coaching or you're teaching or there's something, you're doing the breathwork piece that you love about it, go test it. I don't care if you take free clients. I don't care if you take low ticket clients. I don't care if you get paid clients, but go mess it up. Go fuck it up. Go get out there and go try things. And from the standpoint of find out what you like and what you don't like. Find out what people light you up and what you enjoy being around and what clients drive you nuts. And I think everyone has those experiences of like, oh, I really like these people, but I have a difficult time coaching these people, or they're not ready for my coaching. Yeah. So I think the first piece of all of it is personal preference. It's like dating. Like you got to go figure out what do you like. Too much red flag, too boring. Like you start narrowing it down.
That is such amazing advice because most people don't do that because they live in this scarcity that if I am for this niche target, then I'm not going to get the financial upside of this other group, even though it drains me.
Yeah.
Even though they're not taking action, even though I don't enjoy it anymore, even though this client is the same one that I've had that hasn't moved. And I think that giving them permission to lead with their own personal preference is really expansive for them.
Yeah.
What is more important? Mindset or marketing strategy?
My word is embodiment.
Oh.
So I would say when I coach people, 15 to 20% is probably strategy and principle of like, here's what we need to change and here's what we need to look at. But most of the time when I give people strategy, it puts them up against the edges that they're uncomfortable with. And so often the reason why the business isn't running is their relationship with judgment, risk. What does it say about me to raise my price? What's going to happen if someone says no to me? So I would say that entrepreneurship really is, yes, 20% strategy, but I would say 80% of it is the come from.
Can I add on something to that? And actually the previous answer too about leading with preference. I really feel like everyone should take a beat. And instead of continuing to chase the social media trends or to send out more emails or to pump out, the content, the events, all of the things, I think you should really take a beat to feel into what genuinely lights you up and make sure that you are creating from your soul and not your ego. Ooh. Because even for me, when I think about, I want to be on these stages, I want to be on this stage. When I go into breath, I'm like, what is the lifestyle I actually want? My dream day, I am sitting in my lovely home with my big floor-to-ceiling windows, drinking my matcha on my laptop for 14 hours, just creating.
Yep.
I'm actually not around people. I'm not on a stage being visible, having the cameras on me. I'm actually just creating experiences from my laptop.
Yep.
Like that's actually the life that lights me up. And I want to grab that laptop and I want to go to Bali for a month and I want to do my little digital products that change people's lives.
Yeah.
So really think about how much the highlight reel has conditioned your mind, your brain. Do you really want to be on a flight every week? Jason, we know that we don't want to be on airplanes every week.
No.
It was hard to get you on a plane to come to San Diego.
I mean, my life used to be 21 days of travel, and it was just like, at this point, I just want to be a dad, partner, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, but you're so damn good at business coaching, and I want more people to have that visibility to your brilliance. So you know that I'm going to be taking you through a breathwork, little hypno-breathwork journey today?
So I've heard.
Anything specific you want me to work on today, outside of what we discussed at lunch?
No, I'm game for whatever.
All right, I'm going to use my intuition.
Deal.
Let's do it.
Hey, friend. Thank you for that, by the way.
You needed that.
Totally.
Wow. What was coming up for you?
A lot. I think the word that had come up before this session that had resonated was the idea of soul retrieval. The idea that when I first got into entrepreneurship, I think you know this story, I learned a lot of tactics really quick, really fast. Sales, marketing. And at some point in time, based on my association with where I learned it from and the people I learned it from, I shut it down. And I think that my 20s was figuring out that I fell in love with entrepreneurship. I feel like my 30s was repairing my relationship to trusting those tools and the human that I am using those tools.
Yes.
And trusting myself to be able to use them with integrity, with intention, but also to be able to use them freely. Using them with integrity and intention still puts a lot of control on them. And there's not a lot of surrender in this space. So when I say soul retrieval, I feel like there is a piece of me that I have shut down for quite some time. The one that wants to be seen, the one that is seen, the one that is that version of me. And so there's a piece of reintegrating and retrusting pieces of me that I think have been interesting.
Is that what was coming up in the Drake song?
That's what came up in the Drake song. Yes.
That was a really, that was a hard one for me to witness, to be honest, because, well, first song, you know, you were like getting into the cadence and you were pumping it pretty hard. I was like, all right, let's go for it. And then the second song, I was bringing up like anxiety and scarcity. The third song with pressure felt like, I mean, like the valve was coming off for the first time in like 5 years or something. Like there was just a lot of emotion and stress that was like visibly held in your body.
When I breathe on my own, I think what's interesting is a lot of my breath work has a lot of aggression to it.
Oh.
And I would love your diagnosis of what that means. But I think what is interesting was when I was thinking through financial scarcity, I think some of it is generational, right? And processing that, not necessarily, some of it might be mine, but what came up was definitely generational financial trauma.
Yep.
And then the Drake song was definitely around the idea of, obviously, the words were remember who the fuck you are. But that piece has been gone for quite some time.
Yeah, it was cool to see you like feel back into your power. And we had explored that 5 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, I think the aggression,
Please, let's do it.
just fucking go
Do it.
there. Let's just go there. I think it's repressed anger.
Yep.
And while I say that to you, what's coming through for me is I think that that's why you are drawn to me sometimes, because I'm so direct about my emotion, and it
Right.
is more aggressive and it's more like expressive.
Very.
And I feel like that's the draw, because part of you wants to be able to like emote in that way, but you're so contained, you're so respectful. I think respectful is like such a perfect word to describe.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know? And so in that space, it's almost like your outlet to like let go of some of that energy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a great way to describe what is missing from my entity is the aggressiveness and
Yeah.
violence of, not violence as in physical violence, but
Yeah.
violence in terms of like the action and direction and focus and
Yeah.
the decisiveness. Yeah.
And I would say to you when we were coaching, I'm like, just fucking call it out. Like, just say it how it is. Can you say the hardest hitting thing, like the hardest truth? Because you clock it, but you are so like understanding and almost empathetic in your delivery.
Sure.
But when you're with me, I'm like, but just say it to me straight, because I don't
Right.
have time for that, you know?
course.
But it was interesting to see when you breathe, it is a different masculine that I am not used to
Sure.
on our day to day, which is cool. Like, I'm glad that you could have that outlet. The last song is when you got emotional, though. So what was coming up there?
I think I experienced emotion in all of it. Remind me,
This version of you.
prompt me one more time.
Well, I hadn't even said anything yet, but then the music just completely slowed down. So I took you on a really interesting journey, right? There was
Right.
like a build, and then I hit you with I hit you with 3 emotional songs actually. And then we went to Drake, and then I closed it with a more ethereal song. And the lyric on loop was this version of you, this version of you, this version of you. Maybe it was like the slowdown, but then I had you see like the version of you that was your highest self, your most financially abundant self, financially free, bringing your family into it.
There is a version, what I visualized was a version of myself, like an outline of myself, right? Radiating. It's a very clear version, but it's a very full version. How do I describe it? It feels obviously more ethereal was the visualization that I had of myself. But the idea is, the word I put to it is complete.
Yeah. Full was a cool word. Full. Whole.
Yeah.
Complete.
Yeah.
Cool. What was your next action step?
One last thing. I saw an integration of, there's a piece that I always had in visualization that was floating, a piece that was not attached to who I am. What I saw was full, right? Like reattaching pieces. What was my intuitive action step?
Yeah.
So it's less about what I'm supposed to do. It's more about how I'm supposed to show up.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then I did the weirdest shit ever. And when you were deep in a meditation, in the final minute, I said paid ads.
I remember that.
I don't know why. Did any strategy or something come up for that?
Yeah, I'm supposed to shoot something in here. But that was like, but it's less about the intuitive, like, hey, there's an intuitive action. It's like how do you show up in the state and the presence and the embodiment in which you are in this space?
Can we give a round of applause to my intuition?
Well done.
Because I was like, I am not saying that. I just took you on a crazy ass journey, and I'm not about to drop paid ads into the meditation. But
What is
I
your
did.
intuitive next step? What is your intuitive action that you're going to take? What letter are you writing?
Wait,
Yeah.
that's crazy. So, just because, we obviously know each other so well, we've seen each other through iterations and versions and evolutions of our businesses. And there was a moment, and maybe it was COVID induced, but where you did pull back. And I think you can say it was family, like with the visibility and the showing up and the being on camera and stuff, right? And I know you went deep into your course and the newsletter and the paid ads, but I feel like some of that was I don't know if it's like from wounding or from, trauma of the industry or launches or whatnot, but I do think that wholeness is you being able to integrate some of that. Like if it is a production or studio, some kind of content like that feels a little bit more balanced and more in alignment than hermiting in your house.
Solitude, the fortress of solitude. I think that there's such an interesting piece in business where often we're thinking about this idea of there are certain steps I have to take and how do I be consistent with them? Maybe this is a cop-out, but what I have found is sometimes there is a rebuilding of the individual to be able to have the capacity to sustainably do that.
Yeah, that's
fair. And I
fair.
found that the state that I was in, it was not a sustainable step. Nor, here's the interesting piece I found, nor was it what was courageous at the time. The courageous thing for me, and anyone call me on bullshit here, was to step away from it. Because I could have kept doing the same thing, but it wasn't where the growth edge was.
That is profound. It's actually profound because, again, like we equate success to exposure, visibility, scale, but sometimes the success is the stillness, is the pullback, is the reflection, is the rebuild, is the foundation.
It's the capacity to be able to the word's not care, because we care about what we put into the world and what we put into the ethers, but it's the ability to be whole as an individual, no matter what the world says about who we are. And I think that is the difficult piece of we can put out content into the world from a place of scarcity, or I'm afraid of what people are saying, therefore I'm going to show up and do it a certain way. Or it can be people say what they want to say, good, bad, but it doesn't change. I think that's the difficult piece is I was someone really early in my career that would get really high in my own supply. So you get on stage, you speak in front of 15,000 people, you get really high on the fact that all the adulation, all the love, and then you come off that high and the question is, who are you? And you're chasing highs. And so maybe this is wrong, but the thought is, can I be the same person when 15,000 people hate me? Can I be the same person when 15,000 people love me? And the only people that matter are the people in the circle, right? It's my wife, it's my kid, it's close friends, it's family. And I can live with that. And I think it's taken a long time to rebuild or be proud of the person that can do that.
Yeah. I think it was a beautiful hibernation. And now we need to see just a little bit more.
Sure.
We need to see a little bit more.
Thank you.
You know what else? I don't know if this is like a little, nudge from the universe, but you did leave and you did come to San Diego and we did get to hang out. And I feel like this was really rewarding for both of us. It was lovely.
I think that you have an incredible gift with the work that you do. And that's how I felt when I virtually did breathwork sessions with you way back when, but also being able to experience it here in person, the ability to watch or have you intuitively guide me through, but moment to moment, right? There's a different reading that's happening in the room, is profound. And so I love that you have this modality, but I also love that you have the courage to put it out into the world and help more people with it. So thank you.
Oh, thanks, Jason. Listen, if I was a coach who was watching this, if I was an entrepreneur watching this right now, I'd be like, how the fuck do I get in touch with him immediately? And I know that you have some resources out there, so tell us what's on the docket, how people can get in contact with you.
I guess you can find me in the future on socials. I have a newsletter called Get More Clients newsletter, which is very generic, but the whole idea is teaching people how to get clients without depending so heavily on social. So there's resources, there are guides, but people can't be strangers. They can fall into my world, and there's free stuff. There's tons of free stuff, and
but you're also taking on some one-on-one clients, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay, good. Just making
my whole world is one-on-one clients right now.
Okay, good.
I spend an entire year with people. I love the idea of being able to watch people through multiple iterations, be in their shit, be in their fear, be in their difficulty. And the idea is for people to be less dependent on a coach afterwards. It's not like we don't have coaches all the time, but I don't want you depending on someone else's decision-making. I want you to be able to understand what are the principles in a business and how do I trust myself to be able to make those decisions. Even when on paper, it doesn't always make sense.
And as someone who has been coached by you, I can say that you are the best in the game, and I highly recommend people get in contact.
You're very kind.
Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, friend.
And if anybody at home wants to experience a HypnoBreathwork session, my intuition is saying to try the decision-making session on Mastry app. Thanks, Jason.
Cheers.
This episode is brought to you by Mastry app. Download Mastry for your 7-day free trial today.
Shout out to Huel for sponsoring and partnering with the Mastry Experience.